Hi guys, it's Izzy and welcome back to another video from my bed. How exciting for all of us, I know. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about some calming books, some soothing books, some comforting books, because the world's on fire right now. And while I am an expert at quarantine, because probably the longest time I spent housebound was like 4 months at a time, and I've been bedbound currently for like 6 weeks, so I'm professional at this. But I know for most people it's very stressful, and it's not nice to be stressed and isolated, and so I am bringing you some books to ease your anxiety, to make you feel happy, to have a good time. So I hope you enjoy these recommendations. I hope that they're helpful to you, and I hope you are as well as possible. I am in full quarantine because it'd be real bad if I got coronavirus. So no one's allowed out, no one's allowed in. We're in full lockdown mode. The dog's here, so I'm alright. But yeah, I am gonna give you a long list of good, fun books. Some are sci-fi, some are fantasy, some are contemporary, but they're all just warming, is how I would describe them. So you're welcome. Let's get started with those books. The first book, and this is maybe becoming almost a bigger problem as the diviners and how often I talk about that, because I'm going to mention Heartstopper in case you haven't watched a single one of my other videos and don't know about Heartstopper and my love for it. That is a graphic novel series by Alice Oseman, one of my favourite authors ever, and it's about Nick and Charlie who become like best friends in school and then fall in love, and it's the most charming and delightful thing ever. So read it. If you want to feel happy, instant happiness, just read Heartstopper. You can also read it online, so even if you can't get the graphic novels, all of it is available for free online, so you're good. Secondly, I'm going to mention A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. Now this is a fantasy adventure story. It's a historical fiction novel taking place in the 1800s, and two best friends, Monty and Percy, go on men go on this like travel thing before they settle down to work. I don't remember what it's called. So they like travel around the world, and Monty has to bring his little sister, and he's also in love with Percy, and then they accidentally steal an item that's kind of magical and kind of valuable, and it's just an adventure and a friends to lovers romance, and it's just great, and it has strong characters, and Percy has epilepsy, so disability rep. Like, it's got everything, and it's really not stressful. The problem with a lot of fantasy series, why there's not that many on this list, is because most of them are kind of stressful, and horrible things happen to people, and there are wars and such. Like, I'm currently rereading an Ember in the Ashes series, just suffering. That's all that happens in this, it's just suffering. But in this book, there really isn't that much bad stuff that happens. Like, there's an adventure, so there is, some action and, kind of a villain, but it is very like low stress and more just like fun and funny and adventurous and just really engaging, and makes me happy because Monty is such a great main character and he's so funny. Then I'm going to recommend A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is a sci-fi novel that takes place on this ship. A woman joins the crew of this spaceship that basically makes wormholes so people can like travel through them in space, and she's new to this ship, and there's like 6 people on the ship, and basically it's just them on the ship making friends, relationships, romance, like just traveling around space, going to different planets. Again, very low stress, just a really nice kind of character study, and it's got a good group of characters. It's just lovely, and it is relatively long, so it'll keep you calm and happy for ages. You're set. and it's a series. I have only read the first book just because I've had so many other books that I've had to read, and I just haven't had time to get to it, but I definitely plan to, and I think there's like 4 books, so you're pretty good. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be so calm and so sci-fi. You're gonna have a great time. Then I'm gonna recommend, I mean, do we need to recommend this? It's been on the New York Times bestseller for like a year now, which is just like insane, and it deserves it, and that is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is a very, 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 very comforting series. My most comforting series. This is my series that I go to when I need just like happiness and just calm and comfort and warmness, and I've read it so many times it's actually a bit of a problem, and I don't mark it on Goodreads because I just listen to it like all the time. It's a bit of a problem. But this follows Lara Jean, and she writes a letter to all the boys she's loved before, and she never sends them, she just writes them for herself, and then one day they get sent out somehow, and she has to start fake dating one of them in order to save face in front of another one who she's in love with but is her sister's boyfriend. So there's fake dating. It's wonderful. There's 3 books in the series. The second one is like mildly stressful, like mildly, but overall so good, so lovely. 3 books. I love Lara Jean. There's baking, there's sisters, like what more could you want? 10 out of 10. Then a book that used to be like my favourite book when I was like 15, but I like never talk about it on here, but it's still a solid book, and I think a very nice comforting book, and that is Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. Again, this was like really big a few years ago and was my favourite book for a while, and then I just read more books so it lost that top spot. But this is a book about 2 friends, and they were like best friends, ride or die, and then one of them leaves without any warning. She doesn't know where she's gone. She has like no idea now what she's going to do with her summer, because that was like basically her only friend. And then we kind of follow her summer as she follows this list that her best friend left her of all the things she should do. And so she kind of does this like kind of bucket list kind of thing, and along the way makes friends, and it takes place over the summer, and it is just so lovely. If you need something happy, if you need it's a solid romance. I enjoy it, and just like a fun time, definitely the book for you. It's so good. Next up, I'm going to recommend another book that I talk about all the time. I'm sorry, I love books, okay? I can't stop talking about my favourite books. And that is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This is a middle grade fantasy series about a girl named Morrigan Crow who was set to die on her 11th birthday due to being born at some special time. That means she's going to die on her 11th birthday. And just before that happens, she gets whisked away to the wonderful world of Nevermore by her mentor, very eccentric mentor, Jupiter North, and she has to try and enter the Wondrous Society, and to do that she has to do these like 3 trials, and yeah, it's like the best, most lovely, most engaging and magical and whimsical fantasy like ever. It's so lovely. All the characters are so good. There's a like giant talking cat. There's a hotel that like changes like every day. It's also magical and whimsical, and it's so good. There are currently 2 books out. The 3rd book I believe is coming out in August, which not helpful for now, but there is 2 books. They're both incredible, and you should read them. If you need something magical and you've read Harry Potter 6 million times like I have, move on to Nevermore. You're going to have a great time. Another book, if you just want a very low stress contemporary, is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this is a book that follows our main character Marnie, and she wants to be a chef, but she is a teen mum and she lives with her grandma, and she is kind of trying to work out how to juggle all of that, and she wants to go on this trip with her cooking class to like Italy or something, and she has to like raise money for that, so she does all this like fundraising, and it's kind of just her, like there is some romance, and it's kind of just her like figuring out how to make things work and like finding her passion and looking after her daughter and connecting with her grandma, and it's just really nice. It's a great story, it's a great book in general, and it's pretty low stress and nothing like too bad or sad happens. For me, if I want like a comforting read or something to calm me down, I really don't like any book that elicits a lot of emotion. Like if I am too sad or connected to a character and something bad happens to them, then that makes me feel so much more stressed. So for me, they all have to be very like gentle and not include too many hard topics or topics that relate too much to my current situation. So that's also kind of part of this recommendation, is like nothing too bad happens in any of these books. Next book I'm going to recommend is Ivy Aberdeen's Letters to the World by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a middle grade novel about a girl whose house is torn apart by a tornado, which sounds like a really bad thing, but that part isn't really like, it's not like some big action tragic event. So it's obviously like sad, but it's more about Ivy and figuring out her place in the family and finding friends and maybe having a crush for the first time, which may or may not be on a girl, and figuring out those feelings, and you know, like meeting adults who are really kind and help her along the way. And it's just a really heartwarming story about friendship and love and family. And apart from the initial event of the house being torn apart, nothing bad happens, and she's obviously sad about that, but it's not going to like make you cry or anything. So I just think it's a really lovely book, and I find it really comforting. And along the same vein, The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James by Ashley Herring Blake is also a really, really good novel. It's also middle grade, and it's about a girl who gets a heart transplant, and it's kind of her trying to like reinvent herself now that she's got a new heart. And her mother, her biological mother, comes back into her life when she's lived with her adoptive parent for like basically all of her life, and trying to like figure that out. And she also starts to have feelings for a girl and figuring that out, and it's kind of just like her living her life and trying to like find who she is, and having her really supportive family around her and friends. And yeah, it's just really lovely. Again, nothing too bad happens, you know, there are a few like arguments or whatever, but on the whole, pretty easy and a really lovely story. If you're gonna read one of them, I would say The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James is my favourite, but they're both amazing. I love her young adult books, but they're very emotional, so don't read those if you don't want to be sad. Another book that I'm gonna recommend that you've probably heard of, but I'm just gonna, you know, put it out there. Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery. Such a lovely, happy, charming read that you should absolutely read when you need something warming. And this is a classic that was like written in the early 1900s, and it follows Anne, who was an orphan, and one day at the age of 11 she gets taken to live with a brother and sister, Marilla and Matthew, and it's kind of just them getting used to having a child around. And Anne is like the child with like the biggest imagination, and she's always getting into kind of trouble that she doesn't mean to get into, and she's trying to make friends, and she's going to school for the first time, and all these like things that are happening for the first time for her, like having a family and like true friends. And it's just, oh, I love it so much. And honestly, like, this is the biggest recommendation of all. If you need a good program to watch, watch Anne with an E. It is the most comforting program I've ever watched. My life has been pretty terrible for the past 6 weeks, and we started watching Anne with an E like when I first got more poorly, and it took us like 3 weeks to watch it because we watched like an episode every night, and there's like 30 episodes, and we finished it and we literally just started it from the beginning again because that's how good it is, and I love the characters so much. There was like 2 episodes that made me cry in season 3, but apart from that, you're good. There are some such stressful bits, but you're gonna love the characters so much and you're gonna be so charmed by it, and it's like become like my favorite program ever, like no joke, like I literally am in love with it. And yeah, oh, and it has the best romance ever. Oh, I love it so much. So read the book, watch the TV show, have a good time. You're welcome. Then a newer release is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. Now, this is one I did cry a bit at, but like 90% of it is like really happy and lovely. So it does have a death of a loved one, not a parent, but like a close family member. So if that is in any way difficult for you to, I mean, it's not nice for anyone to read, but I mean, if you're specifically like sensitive to that, then don't read that book. But for the most part, it's a queer Greece retelling, and it's about a boy called Oliver who has this whirlwind romance and then thinks he's going to move away, but then goes to this new school and this boy is there and they're kind of off and on and he really likes him, and it's just so lovely. And Ollie is so funny, he's such a brilliant narrator, and it's just like funny and heartwarming, and the romance is great, and I just loved all of it. But there is a little bit of a sad part, but that's the only book I have on this list that I cried at, so if you don't feel up to that, don't read it, but it is, for the most part, a really good and happy read. Then I'll recommend I Will Always Write Back, which I also talk about a lot because no one reads it and everyone should read it. It's technically a non-fiction book about Caitlin and Martin, and they become pen pals. Caitlin lives in America and Martin lives in Africa, and they get paired up via their school, and kind of after a few months, like all their other school friends like give up on their pen pal relationship, but they write to each other for years and years and become best friends. It's just about them like supporting each other and kind of the differences in their lives, and you know, like helping each other, and it's just so lovely and made my heart grow 3 sizes like the Grinch. It was just that lovely. It was so good, and everyone should read it. Don't be put off by it being non-fiction. It doesn't read like non-fiction at all. It's not heavy or dense or anything like that. And it just has such a lovely theme of friendship, and it's just so good. The penultimate book I'm going to recommend to you is Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. This is a book about a girl, I don't remember her name, who lives in Texas, I think, and she goes to this prestigious boarding school in Scotland for her senior year, and she has a roommate called Flora who she kind of hates, and who turns out to be a Scottish princess, and it's kind of their like enemies to lovers romance, and it's so good. And it's no like, I didn't like fall in love with it, but it's definitely another like no bad things happen, very happy, lovely, calming read that you will just have a good time reading. And like, I really don't remember like anything bad happening. Like, nothing bad happens, so you're set, you're welcome. Read, enjoy, be happy. And the final book I'm going to recommend is What If It's Us by Adam Silvera and Becky Albertalli. This is a story about 2 boys, Arthur and someone else who I can't remember the name of, who meet in a post office but then kind of lose each other and don't get the contact information for each other, but they both felt like a spark between them, and so they kind of try and find each other and then go on a series of failed dates and just kind of have this messy like teenage relationship in New York City, and it's just so charming. There are a few minor cases of homophobia, but they're really very mild. Like, I mean, homophobia is bad, but like they're not like really aggressive, or there's not a lot of it at all. It's just a very small part of the book, and the rest of it is just fun and lighthearted and just such a good time. And I just love it. It brought me so much comfort. I read it like while recovering from the flu, and it was the perfect book to get me through that. And yeah, it's just lovely. So those are all my book recommendations to keep you going through these difficult times. I hope they bring you some comfort if you haven't read any of these, and give them a go. I really hope that they can kind of ease your struggle a little bit, and I hope everyone is as well as possible. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support during these trying times of being in my bed. And yeah, follow me on Goodreads, Twitter, Instagram. All of those links are in the description box below, so go be my friend over there. I'd love to see you there. And I'm really close to 450 subscribers, which is amazing. Thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed recently, and I hope you enjoy these videos. And if you have any requests for videos you'd like me to make, please leave them down below. I can't really do vlogs because I just stay in my bed, so it's really not very interesting. So if you have any like recommendations you'd like me to do, or any tags you'd like me to do, then please do let me know. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you are safe, and I hope you have a wonderful day, as wonderful as it can be, and make sure you're social distancing to keep vulnerable people safe. Even if you think you'll be fine, there's a lot of people like myself who are immunocompromised and will not be fine. And yeah, just try and be thoughtful of other people, and try and keep safe and well. And yeah, just be sensible, just be smart, and be safe. I just hope everyone's okay. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.